Alright guys, so in this video what we're going to talk about is version detection and banner grabbing. Banner grabbing is a way that we can try and pull certain information from like a header, and this is why we call it a banner. So it can contain, say, version numbers, it can contain information about the operating system even, because certain version numbers might line up with the type of operating system. So for example, let's say we have an application for Windows and we have an application for Linux. For Windows, the version number might be like 2.1, and the Linux version might be something like 0.2, for example. And so sometimes they can help us, but sometimes they will actually say Windows or whatever the actual operating system is. So we don't necessarily have to go look up that version number. But anyhow, this is going to be useful because it, one, helps us identify the operating system, and two, the version number is important because if we search for an exploit, let's say, or a vulnerability for a particular application, well, there's probably been many releases depending on the application, and there might be vulnerabilities that only work like in the first version or the second version. So we obviously don't want to look up vulnerabilities that existed in older versions if they've been patched. So that's why version numbers can be extremely helpful. Now, Nmap does a good job at identifying the services on the ports. It also tries to do a version detection as well. However, I'm going to show you a couple other programs that we can use that will probably give us slightly different results. So let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm going to actually do a net discover because I just quickly want to see what's on the network, and I'm going to do a -R for the ARP requests, and the 192.168.1.0/24. So I'm going to be flooding the network for everything, and we can see that we've got 192.168.1.111, we've got one on 106, and one on 110. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control C to cancel, and so let's pick the first one. Now, obviously, mine, you're probably going to get some different results. I have many different machines, well, only 3 machines, other than my Kali machine on here. So let's go ahead and dive into it. The first thing that we're going to do is talk about Netcat. Netcat is NC, and we're going to do a -V, and this is for version. We're going to scan for different version numbers of whatever port we specify. So I'm going to do a 192.168.1. Mine will be 111. And now we need to know the port number. Well, what's on the ports? We would obviously want to do another Nmap scan to try and detect what's on the IP address, what kind of ports are open. So I'm just going to run a default Nmap scan, 192.168.1.111, and I'm going to do a -V for verbose. And again, when we do an Nmap scan and we do the default, you can see that it uses the ARP ping scan. And so instead of using an ICMP, a regular ping, it's going to do an ARP ping and to verify that that host is up. And Nmap by default will only scan the top 1,000 most commonly used ports. So it's only going to scan the top 1,000. Now you can see that there's some like 8,009. I don't mean 1,000 like that. I mean if you take the 1,000 most common ports, that's what it's scanning for. So if you wanted to scan for more, there's probably many more open ports on this, possibly, but Nmap just used the default. So anyways, we could be more precise if we use the -P command and then specify the range of ports like 1 through 30,000 or something, which would obviously take quite a bit. But anyhow, we can work with what we have here, and we'll see what kind of information we can grab. So NC-V 192.168.1.111, and all we need is the port number. So let's start with the top one. We'll do port 21 for FTP, and we'll see exactly if it can detect what's running here. So Netcat may take a minute or two to run. It should have a pop-up here shortly, and it's going to have another couple of pop-ups, so we'll just wait for that. But when it's done, it should return you back to the prompt. Some people think that, there we go, there's our first pop-up, and it says port 21, it's FTP open, and now it's going to actually see what it can grab as far as version numbers or anything like that. There we go. So Pro FTP, and it's version 1.3.1, and it's server, and we can see that it's trying to say that's Debian. Now, it may be Debian, but the main thing is that it's Linux. It's for Linux. There's not really going to be a Ubuntu specific or Debian specific. It would just be generically just a Linux exploit or vulnerability that we would want to search for. But now that we have the name and the version, now we can specifically look for vulnerabilities for this, and that's why it's super important. It could just help you a ton. Now, it hasn't frozen, but it hasn't completed yet. It will return back to a prompt, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the next port and see what other kind of information we can get out of this. All right, and we're back to a prompt. Let's look for MySQL is a good one to look for. Let's see if we can see what kind of version that is. And by default, it does run on 3306. So I'm going to use the up arrow and do a 3306. And we'll see what it finds here. Alright, so that just took a couple of minutes, but as we can see, it did return some interesting information. Obviously, 3306, MySQL, it's open. Well, we know it's open. Nmap told us that. But here we go, 5.0.51. That is the MySQL version. At least that's what these numbers would refer to. Now, is it actually this version on the system? I'm not sure. We're just going to pretend like we don't know. But it is telling us a version number, which is nice. It also says Ubuntu. Now, before, when we did another lookup, it showed us Debian. Well, like I said, don't pay too much attention if it's Debian or Ubuntu. It can be important, but what we're mainly looking for is the version. And obviously, we would want to look up our exploits or our vulnerabilities based off of that. And as it was done, it went ahead and returned our terminal over here. I can just use the clear command, and that'll clear it up for us. There's one more command that I would like to share with you, and it's extremely similar. It's the AMAP. So AMAP and dash, we can do a number, a -A, which is default, a -B would be for banner grabbing mode. There is a V command, so we can be verbose. Let's just do an AMAP and see what it says. So you can get a better idea. There's AMAP, that's map applications. Send triggers and analyze response. That's default, like I said. -B, just grab banners, don't send triggers. -P, it basically just turns it into a port scanner. And a whole bunch of other stuff. So -V, you got verbose mode. A lot of cool stuff. So let's just try the base one. Let's see. The AMAP, and it's going to be just 192.168.1.111 for me. And same thing with Netcat. It's going to be the port number. Let's find a port. So here's 22. Let's see what happens with 22. There we go. It's saying that port 22 matches SSH. There we go. And it just went ahead and it completed it. It didn't really give us any specific version numbers, but it seems to think that it's SSH or Open SSH. So it kind of says, yes, it's SSH, but it could also be SSH-Open SSH. And let's go ahead and try just a couple of more. We'll do an AMAP, and let's just see what happens if we added a -B and see what that would do. There we go. So that was like super fast. Banner mode. Now we grabbed the specific information that we're looking for. So it is SSH 2.0 Open SSH, like this suggested here. But this gives us a for sure answer. It's SSH 2.0, like I said, Open SSH 4.7. This one says Debian-Ubuntu, so it could be either one. So that's awesome. Now, not always are we able to get information. Sometimes we're not able to. Let's try and grab the MySQL, or let's say the PostgreSQL 5432. So let's do 5432 and see what that grabs. This one wasn't as fancy, it didn't return any results. Let's just do the default and see what it does, which we can specify a -A or just run it like that. And it just says it matches MySQL. Let's run one more. And I'm not sure what this one is. 8009. Let's see what that is. It just says it's TCP. Doesn't really tell us what it is. It probably doesn't know what it is. Nmap has a massive database of what is running on the port, and or at least the service, and that's why it's able to give us so much information. But we're just trying to combine our tools to get better information. Let's just do banner mode. Oops, what'd I do? We need the port number. So 8009, I think it was. Yep. Try that again. This time we'll just do it in banner mode. And it didn't find anything. Let's go ahead and just pick one more, guys. Let's do SMTP, port 25. Let's try that, port number 25. And nothing there. Let's go ahead and do a -A, which is default. And see if that tells us anything. And it didn't, well, it did return something. It just says TCP, but it didn't actually tell us anything else. So anyhow, those are just a couple of examples of what we can do. And like I said, not always is it going to return information, but if you want to debug things, banner mode, it's awesome. And we were able to, at least for the SSH port, detect what kind of SSH port it was and what version it was. And obviously we can take our time and go through all these different ports. We can go back and scan a more thorough amount of ports. Like I said, it's only going to scan the top 1,000 most commonly used ports. So we could obviously craft an Nmap scan that would scan specific ones. We can make our own scripts, for example. A lot of stuff that we can do. But anyhow, I covered everything I wanted to do in the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and just send me a message if you have any questions. Thanks.